One harmless affair. Scene. Dave and Sonia Brown, a childless married couple, are sitting at the kitchen table. Dave has just gotten home from work. Sonia is an hour ahead of him and dressed smartly. There is a suitcase by the front door. Now, Dave, the main thing I want you to finish this weekend is painting the nursery. The paint cans are right outside the door, and the guy at the store said you need at least 2 coats. Oh, before I forget, did you ask your parents if we could paint the spare room? I know they said to treat this house like our own, but it's still just common courtesy. Yeah, they're fine. Remind me again, Sonia, why do we need to paint the nursery now when you're not even pregnant? Sonia sighed at having to say all that again. She was very fond of Dave. He was a good provider and would make a great father when the time came, but he could be annoyingly absent-minded at times. Because, Dave, I'm off the pill now, so it's only a matter of months before I get pregnant and maybe another year before the nursery has little inhabitants. I told you, I did a little research showing that even the safest paints give off toxic fumes within a year of application. The main reason I'm leaving with Bev this weekend is because I'm sensitive to the smell of paint. Otherwise, I would stay, and we could do this together. Now here's what I propose. First thing tomorrow morning, you have to take my car to the service shop. They'll give you another one in exchange for the day. I've already booked it. You come back here and apply the first coat of paint. That should keep you busy until about lunchtime. Then, if the car service is done, take the car and go to your mom's. She'll feed you lunch. Usually mowing the lawn takes you most of the day. Dinner for tomorrow is in the freezer. Sunday morning, apply a second coat of paint and please keep the nursery door closed so the fumes don't soak the whole house. Bev had me tell you that Mick will pick you up around 1 o'clock for a round of golf. You can have dinner at the clubhouse and Bev will drop me off here around 8. How's that sound? Wow, I'm going to be a busy, organized bee this weekend, aren't I? At that moment, Sonia's phone rang, receiving an incoming text message. She looked at it. Bev is already coming out of the house to pick me up. Now, are you sure you have everything you need? Don't worry, woman, I'll be fine. Are you sure you'd rather stay here with me than go to a spa weekend with Bev? We could try to have a baby in 2 days. Ooh, tempting, Dave. But as I understand it, to have a dirty weekend, we'd have the rest of our lives, and I, to enjoy a little freedom, only have time left until I become a mother. Sonia had to turn away from her husband when she said that. Her self-image as a decent, honest person was badly damaged after the recent decisions. All right, Sonia. I guess all you have to do is open that little parting gift I bought you. Dave reached under the table and placed a wrapped box the size of a pack of cigarettes in front of Sonia. She looked at it, a little puzzled. Should I open it now, Dave? Can I do it this weekend? That's your business. You can open it now or later, but I highly recommend using it this weekend. Sonia grabbed the gift and began to tear off the wrapping, exposing the cellophane-wrapped box. It took her a moment to realize what it was. Dave filled the silence. I had to act at random, but I think there are 12 contraceptives enough for 2 nights and 2 days at the spa for you and Paul. I took the risk of buying extra large ones because I'm guessing he has more than I do. I mean, really, you wouldn't give up our marriage and future children for someone else, would you? Sonia froze with shock, unable to take her eyes off the gift box in her hand. Dave, on the other hand, kept talking. Also, I suppose your huge list of tasks for me to do while you're away should keep me from thinking about questions like, why did Sonia dodge my question when I asked what spa you and Bev were going to? Or, why did she discourage me from calling her this weekend? Sonia couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't act. Her foolproof plan to have one harmless pre-motherhood affair, instigated by her best friend, had just blown up in her face. She was shocked. Did you save the paint receipt, honey? Yes, this room needs to be repainted, but I don't think a light pastel shade suitable for both boy and girl would be appropriate right now. I'll get a different color when I drop your car off at the service tomorrow. I suppose, reasoning logically, you have no reason to rush out on Sunday afternoon now that I know what you're actually going to do. Oh, great acting, by the way. You were really convincing in your lies. Unable to believe the empty words, Dave fell silent and watched Sonia destroy herself with self-incrimination. Leading up to this point, he wondered if she had a plan ready if the real reason for her trip was ever revealed. Now, watching her book-like face, he realized there wasn't. Interestingly, she didn't deny what he had said. Maybe the fact that he not only knew what she was going to do this weekend, but with whom, convinced her that lying was useless. Maybe she finally remembered how fundamentally honest she was. He waited until she looked into his eyes to get an idea of what she was thinking. And he did. Finally. Do you suppose I'm still going away for the weekend? I can't leave now. I have to stay. Why, Sonia? Well, the thought of settling down and having a baby was scary, so... No, Sonia, why do you want to stay here this weekend? What's the point? What would you accomplish? If Sonia had looked stunned before, now she looked utterly confused. Achieve, Dave? So I can explain what, Dave? You can forgive me, can't you? After all, I haven't done anything yet. Yes, you were planning to, but not now, Dave, not ever. If Sonia had dared to look at Dave's face, she would have realized how dead the horse she was spurring was. She justified her actions in her own head before deciding to finally give in to Bev's whining and join her on one of her secret weekends away from her marriage. If she'd ever considered the consequences of being caught ex post facto, she'd bet her marriage was strong enough to survive it. Now, knowing that nothing had actually happened, forgiveness was already granted in her mind. All she has to do is weather the storm. Repent. That would bring back her plans for her life. When? In 6 months? In a year? That's what she thought, and that's why Dave's next words confused her. Just go, Sonia. Go to your stud. Go to your mother. Honestly, I don't care where. Just go. For the first time since Dave's revelation, Sonia dared to look into her husband's face. He was looking down, and his expression was unperturbed. The only noticeable hint of emotion was the moist glow in his eyes. Sonia thought it best to leave for a while. Right now, Dave was clearly angry, and she didn't want him to say anything that he wouldn't easily take back. She was already composing a story in her head for her mother. How long do I have to stay away, Dave? Dave looked at her and shook his head. Always, Sonia. Sonia's jaw dropped. Dave ignored her reaction. Yes, we had 5 good years, but it's over. There's nothing left to talk about. We don't have kids, and this house belongs to my parents. We both make about an equal amount of money, so there's no need to even try to talk about child support. I have spent the last 2 days hiding our money. I think that's fair since I haven't spent a dime in all the time we've been together, and you've spent your share on clothes, that flashy car, and your weekend trips with Bev. I closed my accounts and credit cards just before I came home. I suppose you could go to a lawyer, but that would cost you more than what you could get back. If I were you, I'd take it as a learning experience for your next relationship. One last thing, Sonia. Dave paused spectacularly. Go away. Sonia was completely confused again. There was nothing she could do to justify this reaction, unless... Dave's mention of other trips implied that he thought as if she'd been on similar trips before. All the previous ones had either been genuine holiday weekends or her cover for Bev's shenanigans. That made her relieved. Oh my God, what, you think I cheated on you already? Well, I didn't. This was supposed to be the first time. The one time. Yeah, Bev spent ages talking me into joining her on one of our trips, but I never did. After all, she had seduced me and scheduled Paul, one of her lovers, and yes, apparently he has really good parameters. It doesn't matter if it's the first time or not, Sonia. You've proven yourself such a consummate actress and liar over the past 2 days that somehow I'll never believe you again. That's what happens when you get caught in a lie. You lose credibility, but it doesn't matter. You intended to make me a cuckold. You admit it, and that's the end of it. Now, for the sake of all the times we've spoken words of love to each other over the last 5 years, let's just break up, Sonia. If Dave was ranting and raving at this point, Sonia would feel better. She would have some hope that he was just spitting out his bile. The cold, impassive tone of his voice confused and frightened her. She looked into his face, into his eyes again, and regretted doing so. Still impassive face, but now the eyes glittered like obsidian. Without love, pity, or even any indication that they were looking at anything other than a disgusted gaze. But Dave, you have to believe me, Kay? How can you be so nonchalant about this? You can't give up your love for me just like that. Still in a nonchalant voice, Dave replied, 2 days ago, I would have been in complete agreement with you. I'm much wiser now. Dave's voice grew louder and louder throughout these 2 sentences. Finally, his face began to express anger. And on Wednesday, I get home from work a few minutes early with flowers for you, I might add, and I park on the front lawn to wash the SUV. I walk in the back door intending to surprise you with flowers, and what? I hear you on the fucking phone with fucking Bev, that's what. And what do I hear? You're laughing, about to lie to me so you can sneak out this weekend and sleep with Paul. You're giggling, about to load me up so I don't have time to think about where you are and what you're up to. But Dave, you know I always giggle when I'm nervous. You laughing stabbed me in the back. It took all my love away almost instantly. Knowing that I would just kill you if I continued to the kitchen, I quietly walked away. It's all been a game on my part ever since. Dave fell silent, his chest heaving and his eyes glittering with hatred. He fought the urge to strangle the stranger who had tricked him into thinking she loved him, the actress who had wasted more than 5 years of his life. Sonia's mind whirled round and round in a round dance of thoughts. If she could make Dave believe she'd never done anything but plan. This really was the first time, and she was actually giggling with stress. She needed to convince him. It was time for her to have a baby. It was all part of the plan. Dave, Dave fiddled with his cell phone. He pressed a button, then held the phone up to her. His face turned back into an impassive mask. From the speaker of the phone came a voice. Her voice, "Ha ha 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 ha. I suppose it's going to be the hot idea of poor old naive Dave painting the nursery while I'm having fun behind his back. Ha 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 ha. You might say, feathering our nest, tasting the delights of another guy in his nest." Even with all her rationalizations, all her filters and misconceptions, Sonia found this tiny passage extremely devastating. For a moment, she could imagine how Dave had felt the first time he heard it. The work that lay before her, rebuilding his trust and love, suddenly became like the view of the summit of Mount Everest from base camp. At that moment, a car horn sounded. Bev had arrived. Staying in the car, she hoped not to avoid looking into the eyes of her longtime friend. The friend whose wife she had seduced with her degraded moral view of the world. Sonia heard the horn honking and realized it wouldn't stop until she got out and talked to her best friend. The problem was that her struggle needed to start right here and now. She was confused by the dilemma. Dave brought her out of the impasse. I think that answers my question. What question, Dave? When I talked to Mick an hour ago, he still hadn't decided whether to expose his cheating wife before she left or ambush her while she was away. I think he decided to do the latter. Sonia looked at the phone in her husband's hand and remembered that conversation with Bev on Wednesday. She was pretty sure the words she'd said were enough for Dave to realize that Bev was an experienced cheater, even listening to the conversation from one side. Her best friend is in big trouble. She just doesn't know it yet. Turning around, she sprinted out of the house. It was raining pretty hard, so she jumped into the passenger seat. He knows. Who knows? So what? Mick knows you're going away this weekend to hang out with Peter. Without giving Sonia time to get out, Bev tore the car off. Soon after, Dave heard the sound of burning tires outside. Epilogue. Not believing his luck to get her out of the house so easily, Dave set Sonia's suitcase on the porch, wrote the single-word entry to Mick, then picked up his tools and began changing the locks. He whistled as he worked, and why not? He was already venting his anger, crying his regrets, and banishing evil from his life. Sonia was too busy crying and ranting on Bev's shoulder to even bother him with phone calls, and that was fine with him. After changing all the locks, he sat down at his computer, copied the voice-recorded file from his phone to his laptop, attached it to an email titled, "Why I'm Divorcing Sonia," and sent it to all the addresses in his and their shared address books. He felt justified in talking to mutual friends, her relatives, and work colleagues first. She was very convincing when, looking him in the eye, she boldly lied to his face. People needed to be warned what an evil and conniving fool she was. He called her mother and explained it verbally, so that the email wouldn't come as a big shock. He thought he owed it to her. By the time Bev and a protesting, kidnapped Sonia arrived at her house, Mick had already changed the locks. While his now estranged wife was banging and screaming, he was completing bank transfers on his computer. Every account Bev had access to now had a zero balance. Sure, she'd get her share eventually, but not until she found a source of funds to pay the lawyer. He changed the app, opened Bev's email address, and read the email he'd received yesterday. At first glance, it was from Sonia, and alluded to the fact that all their elaborate plans for a weekend away from their marriage had been successful. But if their husbands found out about it and objected ex post facto, then something would have to be done about them. The email was actually from Dave using Sonia's account, but the casual observer will never know that. If Bev didn't leave the house quietly, he could always threaten to turn the email into a weapon for the purposes of a restraining order. When it became obvious that pounding on Bev's old front door was accomplishing nothing but attracting the curiosity of the neighbors, she returned to her car and to Sonia, who was waiting for her. It only took 5 minutes for years of friendship to fall apart forever. Sonia accused Bev of talking her into a weekend adventure. Bev accused Sonia of not being careful enough by letting her husband overhear their conversation. Bev dropped her former friend off at her old house, shrieking shrilly, "Fool!" Sonia's calls to Dave's phone went unanswered, and she discovered that her keys no longer fit the locks when she tried them. Embarrassed, she went to her mother's house, where she was met with a very cold welcome. Over the weekend, Dave refused to answer her calls, but the following Monday night he responded to a text message. If she arrived at the house at 2 o'clock the next day, he told his roommate to watch Sonia while she packed up her remaining personal belongings. Meanwhile, Sonia reasoned that since Dave had been so nonchalant on Friday, he wasn't all that upset, and with a proper spat, he might one day forgive her. She knew he was a very controllable man, so her plan was to sneak into the house on Tuesday, cook him an amazing meal, and then meet him at the door dressed for love. On Tuesday, their neighbor let her into the house and said he'd be back later to check on what she planned to pick up. Sonia wandered around the house, already feeling like a stranger. It smelled like paint, and the door to the children's room was closed. Curious, Sonia decided to see what color Dave ended up choosing. Opening the door, she stepped in, and the blood left her face. Sonia realized that she had mistaken Dave's visible emotions for what he was actually feeling. He'd used the paint she'd brought. Written in angry letters across the wall were the refrain, "Cheater, stolen 5 years, fool, and betrayal." Sonia leaned against the door jamb as it all hit her. She looked down in horror. The paint was still wet and left a wide streak on her arm. She bounced away from the door, shivering, feeling as if she had been branded with horrible words screamed at her from the walls. For the first time, Sonia saw her actions for what they were, the damage and pain she had caused both her husband and herself. Screaming in sympathy for her husband and for her own loss, Sonia Travis, née Brown, packed her belongings and, with a sense of dread at the pain and humiliation, left her home for the last time. The end.